Today, we become legends.
Lancelot? More like, can you Lancer not one-shot my whole team, please? So we finally got another Arthurian god, and boy is he a doozy. The utility, base damage and tankiness of a warrior combined with the mobility and scaling of an assassin. What could go wrong? Naturally, Lance has been compared to Achilles quite a bit, and I do think it's a valid comparison, at least for the first two abilities. The 3 and the ult are of course pretty unique, and nothing like what Achilles has, but comparing even Lance's 1 with Achilles 3 just shows that this god's numbers are bloated as all hell. Achilles 3, already a really high damage ability when both hits land, does 380 plus 90% scaling. Compare that to Lance's 1 that functions extremely similarly to Achilles 3. Piercing Thrust does 480 base and 130% scaling. These abilities are strikingly similar in basically every way. They're a dash that if it hits you get a second dash. Just Lancelot's version apparently needs 100 extra base damage and 40% extra scaling, while also being easier to use than Achilles 3. They even can both use basic attacks and other abilities in between the two dashes. I know this comparison isn't completely apples to apples, and Achilles 3 has a bit more utility in terms of when you throw the projectile, while Lance just has to hit the initial dash. But even in that, the dash on both is 20 units and the damage range on both is 35 units. There really isn't too much tangible difference between these two abilities other than Lance doing insanely more damage. I get he's an assassin and Achilles has a stun in his kit making him more useful in other ways, but the damage disparity here is just ridiculous, and even compared to the average damage of assassin abilities at 343 base plus 91% scaling, this ability dwarfs that and has great AA cancels that effectively adds an extra 60 or so plus 100% scaling per basic attack you weave in between these hits. The mobility is also deceptively good on this, as it's fast and goes far enough to dodge an ability but not so far that you're dashing out of range to keep hitting your target. You can often dash through enemies and be at their back, AA them, cancel it with a dash back through to their front and keep going, which can be really disorienting for the enemy you're fighting. But I digress, that's a long time to spend ranting on an ability that only has 2 lines of text, but I just wanted to stress how low-key OP this ability actually is. But moving on to Achilles 1, but it's a knock-up and does more damage. Skilled Strikes is an interesting ability. The range really isn't there at only 15 for the close hit and 25 for the Lance follow-up hit. That's definitely some of the lowest range in the game, and the initial shield bash is actually less range than extended range auto-attack characters like Awilix or Cuchulainn. However, it does over 500 base damage and 100% scaling, so ultimately you can't complain. The first hit confirms into the second hit, so really you just need to get into melee range, which believe me is not difficult on Lancelot, and you get insane damage plus a knock-up, one of the most powerful CCs in the game. Granted, it's a very weak knock-up and is mainly there to confirm the second hit of the ability, but yeah. These two abilities alone deal 986 base plus 234% scaling, and are very fast and easy to connect. A quick dash in, then 2, then the second dash takes like 2 seconds total, but will absolutely obliterate a backliner's health bar, especially with AA cancels weaved in. These two are basically the bread and butter of Lance's kit, and with fairly low cooldowns and building CDR on him as you should be, these abilities are up far more often than you'd think. 2 rotations of these will actually just kill a backliner in the late game. But moving on to Mount Up, this is a bit of a weird one. I wanted to come on here and say that this ability is broken as all hell and should be removed from the game, but ultimately it does have its counters. Mainly in the form of the Hell Shield that starts low and dismounts if broken. If a Lance mounts anywhere near an enemy, he's most likely going to get dismounted instantly from losing the shield before he can even use a dismount ability, and so you have to be careful with how you use this. But with that said, why the fuck does it give immunity to all CCs except stuns? I know Hyra's probably enjoyed destroying Shiva's ult after the complaints they got about his OP release, but did they really need to take that mechanic for Lance? I personally don't hate using specific CC effects to cancel abilities that can be problematic, but I feel like only one CC effect being able to counter this is a bit stupid. Sure, stuns are one of the most common CCs in the game, and I believe the most common hard CC there is, but does Lance really need to just cleanse and immune all other CCs just for being on a horse? Movement restricting CCs would make sense, so like roots, cripples, slows, maybe a few others, but why does getting on a horse make him immune to knock-ups, silences, and madness? Also, the fact that a full mounted HP shield at max rank is 740 is a bit much. As I said earlier, it's rare for Lance to get a full shield as he can be dismounted fairly easily, and if he does dismount using a normal ability from the horse, he will lose the shield anyway. But 740 HP to ride into a fight with seems a bit over the top. Not to mention the mobility that Mount Up provides, which is some of the strongest in the game. Comparing again to Awilix with her Suku mount, that gives 25% movement speed when mounted, while Lance's gives 32%. Plus, Lance gets 2 different dismount options that are both much better than Awilix's standard jump from Suku. Crashing Dive is the closest comparison, and it comes with more damage, more immunity frames, and a route to confirm the hit. Plus, Shining Gallop is always there as an option if you need it to hit from range and or want the slow. Though Gallop does do less damage overall than a Willix's jump, but still, it has a slow attached, more range, is easier to hit, and has a second option available if necessary. But honestly, at this point, I can't even complain. New gods taking mechanics from older gods but more bloated is a pretty common thing in Smite nowadays. It just makes me pretty sad to look at Lance's 3 and a Willix's 1 side by side. But hey, at least Lancelot looks amazing, I'll give them that. Genuinely one of, if not the best looking god they've released so far, and I mean that. Texture quality is great, colours pop, the horse's armour looks sick. But back to the rant. Let's talk a little bit about Lance's ult. So when I saw this on paper, I initially thought it was going to be super trash, I won't lie. Since it comes with only a cripple, which much like his 2 is only there to confirm the hit and is not an actual real CC really. That is one of the areas Lance lacks in a lot, and it's part of the reason why he's such a snowball heavy god. If he gets to lead early, his damage and mobility allow him to stomp through teams with ease, but if he gets behind early, his damage is just decent, not broken, and he has almost no utility or CC to speak of, making him very useless from behind. The ult does respectable but not insane damage at 500 plus 120% scaling, comparing that again to the average assassin ult at 580 plus 132%. But the main reason I thought this ability was kinda meh on paper is that I didn't realise you stay mounted after the ult regardless of if your 3 was on cooldown or not, and you can dismount for free since the ult fully charges your HP shield before being mounted. That basically adds an extra 280 plus 70% and a slow, or 310 plus 90% and a root to this ability, making it deal more like 800 plus 200% scaling and 2 different CCs. Comparing that again to the average assassin ult damage at 580 plus 132%, and you can easily see that when you account for the dismount damage, this ability is pretty busted. And I've not even mentioned the insane mobility this gives. If you're ever in trouble, just ult and get away for free every time. It gives you 740 health in shields, mounts you up, and makes a crazy gap between you and your enemy. This insane chase down / runaway is really what makes Lance still super oppressive, even with his relative lack of good CC. But that's just one man's opinion. How do you guys feel about Lancelot? Is he broken, or do people just need time to adjust to his playstyle? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.